All right, so we could get started. I know more people are going to be coming. My name is Evelyn. I go by Eva. I'm a rising third year at Toro Harlem, and I am the chair of the New York Emergency Medicine Student Council. I have other council members here with me today. If Tyler and Stephanie want to introduce themselves, they're going to be moderating with me. We can start with Tyler.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler. I am a fourth year at NYTCOM out here in Brooklyn. And I love emergency medicine. I'm the new outreach coordinator for the New York MSC, and so anything that you see on Twitter and Instagram is coming from us, coming from me. Thanks for everyone for coming and seeing all the posts, following everything, just helping us get the word out there.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Beaker. I'm a fourth year medical student at NYITCOM. I'm the current health policy and advocacy chair for the New York Emergency Medicine Student Council. I'm really excited to see all of you today, and I'm looking forward to a great chat.
Thank you guys again, and thank you to the other state chairs who sent out that email. We have so many medical schools involved with this, and it's awesome that we were able to get that kind of outreach. So thank you again to the attendings and the program directors. We'll start out with letting them introduce themselves. So we could start with Dr. Modi.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Shivani Modi. I'm one of the assistant program directors at Maimonides Medical Center. We're located in Brooklyn, New York. We're one of the largest hospitals in Brooklyn. We're a level 1 trauma center, level 2 pediatric trauma center. We have 18 residents per year, and we're a 3-year program. We have a number of fellowships as well in case you guys are interested. It provides for some pretty great learning for our residents as well. We have a pretty strong ultrasound program as well as medical education, a PEM fellowship, and we have 18 residents per class. If you guys want to check out our website, there's a lot more information. I put it in the chat, but our residents really have a great time together. And I am really sad that this year we're going virtual. We'll make the best of it, but I think one of our favorite parts of our interviews are the interview dinner and really getting to know the residents. But hopefully we're going to be able to provide you guys with a little bit more virtual interaction with our residents and our program that we will share more information about via our Twitter, our Instagram, and hopefully more on this call today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Upstate.
So I'll go first since there's 2 of us from Upstate on here. My name is Bill Paulo. I'm the interim chair at emergency medicine at SUNY Upstate. I'm born and raised in New York City. I did my med school at Einstein. I did my training at NYU Bellevue, and then I wound up in upstate New York in Syracuse. So I can explain some of that if you're interested in knowing what it means to be up here rather than down there, especially from somebody who did not grow up here. I was the program director of emergency medicine up here for the past 8 years, and I took over as interim chair on May 1st. So I can give you a little bit of insight from the past 8 years of program directing about SUNY Upstate. We are a large level 1 trauma center. We are a resource hospital for a giant swath of the community that needs physicians. We serve a lot of populations. We have a large refugee population. We have an urban population, a rural population, Mennonite population. There's everything that you'll see up here. We are the resource hospital, tertiary care hospital for central New York, which takes us from Syracuse all the way up to Canada and all the way down to Pennsylvania. And we are the Children's Hospital, PEM Fellowship, all those other things too. But I'll answer any questions about what it means to live in upstate New York and why it's way more affordable than where I grew up, and how you can buy a house for the same amount of money I spent for my apartment in Astoria. And I can tell you all about that. But I'll tell you a little bit more about program directing and things like that. But it's a fun place to work and train, and has all the same sort of things that I expected from New York City, and even more so in some cases because we're the only team in town. And Paul Claywitter is on the call too, and he's the new program director for our program. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name's Paul Claywitter. I know it says Jack. He's my son, and however I clicked on Zoom this time, I ended up on his account. So my first name's actually Paul. I actually was born in upstate New York outside of Buffalo. I've been in Syracuse for a long time. I was at Ohio State in their Department of Emergency Medicine. For 4 years. I was at University of Buffalo, and I did a sports medicine fellowship as well. I have only been program director for a month and a half, so I'm still trying to figure out how to make this work. I have not been the program director through interview season or any of that fun stuff. yet, so I will probably defer a lot of questions to Bill from that perspective. But like I said, I've been not living in New York City. I've been up here, and so I can answer a lot of questions that people are interested in what it would be like, or like what it would mean to come live in this part of the state.
Thank you. Dr. Pereira.
I'm Tom Pereira, and I don't know how to take my mute off. I'm the program director at Zucker NSLIJ, and I have been a program director for almost 20 years at various institutions. Somebody said it earlier, but you guys are absolutely right. Emergency medicine is the best frickin' field out there. And honestly, the best job in emergency medicine, if you can get it, is to be a program director. Essentially, you get to be a camp counselor for the rest of your life, and it is awesome. I'm currently at NSLIJ. I love the place. It is a 3-year program. It is a large 3-year program, so I got lots of people to play with. We have 2 main hospitals, one of them sitting in Queens with the largest amount of diversity of any place, as far as I can tell, on Earth. 100 different cultures, but more important, the best food you will ever have, which makes any shift go by better. We are level 1 trauma. We are level 1 trauma peds. We have essentially a subspecialist in everything, like things with umlauts and specialties I can't even pronounce. We have that sort of stuff. We are called a quaternary center, which means that tertiary centers send people to us when they don't know what to do about it. So the exposure to a lot of different things is fantastic. We pride ourselves in having a fellowship in a lot of different things. I would say everything, but we don't have hyperbarics, so I can't say that. And the reason I think that's important is I think that if you are at a place that has specialists in a lot of different things, you learn that topic in a different way. You learn how to practice emergency medicine in a different way from sort of each one of them. So honestly, exposure is what we're about, exposure to different diseases and people, and it's a fun place to be.
Thank you. And we also have Dr. Hassan and Dr. Weisberg. Dr. Hassan, if you want to start.
Actually, Dr. Weisberg, you want to give the intro to our beautiful program?
You go first. I will pick it up after you're done.
So I'm Shruq Hassan. I'm the clerkship director at Staten Island. I'll let Dr. Weisberg give you a detailed description of our program, but I am the one that most of you have been contacting regarding rotations and the confusion that's been going on. Definitely always here. We actually have our chief medical resident who put our information over there if you guys want to ask any questions. We are a third year residency program. We are offering rotations, obviously, which we'll go into because I know there's a lot of questions regarding that. And that's really it basically regarding my role. Dr. Weisberg will give you the details regarding our actual residency and program.
Thank you very much. So I'm Moshe Weitzberg. I'm the program director and associate chair for education at Staten Island University Hospital. So Staten Island is one of the 5 boroughs of New York City, believe it or not. And in Staten Island, we have a very large population, about 500,000 people, and we only have 3 hospitals for this entire borough. We have 2 of them, our north site and our south site. Other than us, there's just 1 other hospital here. So you're going to see a lot of patients. We are also a level 1 trauma center, STEMI, cath center. We're a burn center. There are actually only 4 burn centers for all of New York City, and we are one of them. You're going to see a lot of burn patients. We're actually a snakebite envenomation center, which I didn't even know needed to be done in New York City, but apparently some people have pets that they're not supposed to have, and then they get bit, so they come to us. It's a really fun place to be. I think many of you, I think actually the Toro students, many of you actually rotate with us, so hopefully we'll get to meet you in person. It's a fun place to be in that people really treat each other like family here. People will look out for you. People will be committed to your success in training. People are really interested in teaching you and making you the best you can be. And we try to really do that in an environment surrounded by a focus on wellness. where we take care of you. We want you to be enjoying your time while you're working hard in residency, and you come out becoming a great physician while at the same time having an enjoyable training program, which is an important combination.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Thanks again for being here. And to all the students who submitted questions, we really appreciate it. We have a lot of questions we have to get to, so we could get started. So as program directors, how do you view students who are doing multiple audition/away rotations? Do you support doing as many rotations as you can, or will doing multiple hurt a residency application?
Evelyn, how should we respond? Should we go around?
Yeah, you guys can go around.
Okay, so I think this is the question of the year. As I'm sure you've all figured out, this recruitment season is different than any other that any of us have ever encountered before. So you're not the only ones who are going through this the first time. In fact, we are as well. I believe, and this is just based on communications from other program directors and from some of my involvement in court, nothing should be held against you. If somebody has 2 slows, nobody should look at you and say, oh my God, this student got 2 slows, what are we gonna do? Nothing should be held against you. That said, there's also no reason to do more than 2 rotations ever in a normal year. So I would say as follows: you should do a rotation at home. If you happen to have a place that you can do another rotation, I think that's okay. And it's okay to do 2 rotations and get 2 letters. You should not feel obligated to do more than 2, because even on a normal year, as I said, that would not be necessary. And if you only have 1 rotation, that's okay also. We absolutely understand that this year is unique and that students are being advised that a home rotation is enough and you don't need to get more than that. So either way, I think you're going to be okay. I think you'll find that emergency medicine program directors overall are a pretty understanding group. We all realize what you're going through, and we're going to try to kind of really work with everybody and help everybody out through the process.
Yeah, I'll echo everything that was just said. I think, especially with the held against you thing, much like was just alluded to, we are figuring this out as we go along as well. None of us have ever done this before. None of us have ever interviewed during a pandemic or used Zoom to interview our candidates or figured out exactly how many slows or what have you. I think you'll find, as was just stated, that emergency medicine is a much more humanist specialty than a lot of other specialties, particularly when it comes to how we train and how we look after our own. And I think what we're going to find is we're going to look at those applications, and I don't think we're going to hold much of those things against you. We're just going to be looking for outstanding students the way we usually do. And we understand all of the limitations that you have. We understood this when you were non-traditional students a year ago, and you came from a different background and did a different career and then entered into this field. So I think this is much the same as anything that we've seen before. That we are much more looking at the human being, and that's what we're interested in. We're interested that you are the person that we want to be there, that can be there in the middle of the night and work with us and take care of everybody that walks in the door, regardless of how you feel on that particular shift. And that's your kind of dedication. That's what we're looking for, regardless of what many slows you had or how many away rotations you did. So I think you won't do things that hurt you this year, and we're going to be even a bit more generous than I think in years past, because we know the limitations that you're working.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be like a broken record, but I would say kind of what Dr. Paulo just said. I think if there's a stereotype, or I think there's a stereotype for ER docs, like other specialties, is that we're close to being normal people. And if you're a normal person, you should realize that this is a once in a century event, and what happens during pandemics, stays in pandemics. So I would be, our students, I don't think our students will actually be even allowed to go to do an away elective. The criteria that Upstate has put together for who's allowed to come here from an away elective and who can leave is pretty stringent. So our students will only have 1. And I would echo too, again, I haven't done this before, but I can't personally see just from a professional perspective, as Dr. Weisberg said, why you would have more than 2 really in a normal year anyways, unless there were a couple places specifically you really wanted to go, or you were couples matching, or if there was some outstanding thing, because there's other parts of medicine, there's other things to do. I would think in those 2 rotations, you should be able to hopefully impress enough people to get enough good letters that we would be happy to have you. So, so I'll pass that on then.
I would, again, echo everything that was said just before me. And the one thing that I'll say is through this pandemic and learning how to treat these patients, we have all learned to be more than flexible with our scheduling and with understanding everyone's personal situations. And so we are going to assume that you guys are all being honest and humble and kind and coming to us with trying your very best. And like everyone has said, we just want to pick the best person who's going to fit in best with our program, because as much as we want the best fit for our programs, we want you guys to be happy where you end up too.
And Dr. Pereira, do you have anything to add?
Half of the questions ask the same thing. The list of questions you gave, which is, will they hold stuff against us? And the answer is no. We are going to try and find the really cool parts of you guys, get to know them, and decide whether you'd be fun to work with for the next 3 or 4 years. So none of this stuff is going to be held against you. And that's actually interviewing. I think one of the most important things to know about interviewing is it's really a process where we're trying to make a match with people we like and that like us. A happy resident is what we are looking for across the board. It's going to be really difficult for you guys to figure out the differences in personalities of different programs, to find the place where you're gonna fit. So you're gonna try a lot of different things to figure out what is right. And we're gonna be doing the same thing, just like everybody else said. So I think it's gonna be an odd year, but I think our goals haven't changed. Find a place where you guys are gonna come into and be happy, find residents that are gonna be happy with us. So there's really not much holding against anybody in a situation like that.
Can I just add, if there's a place, I don't know, maybe somewhere out there there's a program director that would hold it against you, but I would ask you, why would you want to end up there? So if somebody holds this against you and decides not to interview you or bring you in, you should be thankful that you didn't end up at a place that you're not going to be happy at, because that's going to be an atmosphere, from my perspective, that nobody's going to want to work at. All these places in here can teach you to be a good ER doc, or all the ER residencies can teach you to be a good ER doc. And going to a place that's going to make you happier, that you fit in, or the culture is the way you like, is going to be a key element in a culture that decides that you needed 2 or 3 slows when the world was falling apart. It's not a place I would want to go to.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Finding out about a program in a lot of ways is kind of like dating. Everybody's got flaws, and it's a matter of what flaws you're willing to live with. If you find that my program snores and you can't live with snoring, then you better well not come to my program because it's something you don't like. But there's going to be things about every program that you like and don't like. There's no perfect program. Every program has strengths in some places, and there's some flaws that they need to work on. What you are figuring out in this whole process is, what are the flaws that are not deal-breaking flaws that you'll be happy for 3 to 4 years, and what are the strengths that you will. So it's kind of what you're looking for when you're looking at us in reverse, is what's your fit, because as program directors, we want you to know what we do well and what we are working on, because we want you to be happy about those things. Because if you come and you're like, God, I really wanted you to do this better, you're stuck with us for 3 years, and trust me, program directors want happy residents. We really want you to be happy. The happier you are, the happier we are, and it's all about us. So we want you to be very happy during your time with us, because it makes us that much more engaged with you, that much more fun. And a happy resident, somebody who's engaged with the program, willing to work on things in the program. So you want to find out what works and what doesn't work, and we want to be as honest with you as possible. So much to Dr. Claywater's point, yeah, I would think that potentially if a program director is holding things against you, then that individual may be a little bit more picky than I would be comfortable with, because we've never worked that way. And I don't think the program directors who took time out here to spend time with you guys would be that way either.
A lot of people bring up the word fit, and students want to know what that would be for your specific program. So what does a resident look like on the first day of orientation week when they start?
All right, I'll go first, and then I'll cede it over to everybody. So what I always tell everybody is what makes a good resident, what makes a great resident. What makes a good resident, what you have to have to walk into any emergency medicine residency and be good, is you have to be the type of person who has a personality that you can walk into a room for somebody that's never met you before in your life, and within 2 minutes, for their actual or perceived worst day of their life, convince them that they can trust you. And that's a skill set that no other physician needs because we are there for episodic care. So what makes a good resident? Somebody who has that type of personality, can walk in to see somebody and make them trust them, even if they just came from an urgent care where the urgent care told them you got to rush over to get a CAT scan. And you looked at all your evidence-based tables and you went through PCARN and you're saying, no, they don't need a CAT scan. So you have to be able to make people trust you in 2 seconds. What makes an exceptional resident is somebody who has those skills and then asks why. Why do we do things this way? Why can't it be that way? Because that breeds change, that breeds research, that brings that breeds changes in curriculum, that brings changes in research. So a good resident needs those types of people skills and inquisitiveness and what have you. An excellent resident goes one step beyond and makes things a little bit better for a vision that they have.
You know, I think that I really feel for you, because I believe this is probably going to be your biggest challenge this year, is how do you figure out the fit of the program because you're not seeing it in person, right? Because the best way to figure out fit is to go meet the people who you are going to work with, talk to them, get to know the residents, get to know the faculty, and then you can get a sense, hey, I like these people, I enjoy being here, or I just don't feel right here. And this year in a virtual world, that's going to be difficult. So first of all, I would strongly recommend that you take advantage of any opportunity that you are given to meet the residents of the program. I am assuming most programs are going to have some kind of a virtual meet the residents. I would strongly, strongly encourage you to take part in that. You know, historically, programs have done things like pre-interview dinners or lunch with the residents, and this year that's going to be difficult. Take advantage of any opportunity you can to meet the people who are there. And you'll get a sense. I think you already get a pretty good idea from meeting us. We're emergency medicine program directors. We're all pretty energetic. We're all pretty excited about emergency medicine. We all like people. We all like to talk to each other. That's the kind of a feel that emergency medicine has. And I think that as you get to know some of the programs and you meet the residents and speak to them, you'll get a pretty good sense of what the program's all about and how well you feel comfortable there.
So the question is a little odd because you shouldn't change yourself to try to impress a program. The place that's going to make you happy is the one who looks at you with all of your foibles and says, yeah, that person is going to do great here. You don't pretend to do research to get a line on your application, because then they're going to want you to come in and do a lot of research and you're not that interested in it. If you love research, do research. But if you are yourself, in the way you present yourself, in the way your ARAS reads, in the way that everything happens, then you are more likely to find the program that is looking for someone just like you that's going to be the match that you're really looking for.
I think now more than ever, using all of the resources that are available to you via like Twitter and Instagram, and using program websites. And I know a lot of programs are going to start putting webinars out there. And as mentioned before, like doing a Meet the Residents. I think those things are going to be really important for you to tune into. And I know a lot of people sometimes don't feel as comfortable using Twitter, but I think it's a great way to get to know a program. And even using their website, like look up the pictures on their website, look up the type of residents that are there, look where they came from. I think you'll learn a lot about a program through that. And then of course, as much as you can try and talk to the residents, meet the residents, that'll really help guide you as to where you feel comfortable. And as Dr. Pereira said, I don't think you need to change who you are. There are so many programs out there that have a lot of different things to offer. So find something that works for you, that makes you feel happy. And a lot of emergency medicine is going with your clinical suspicion, right? Going with your gut. And that's a lot of how choosing your residency program is too. If it feels right, and if it seems to fit with your values and your morals and the culture seems to fit, then that's going to be what's right for you. But don't ignore that gut instinct that you get when you meet a program director or you do an interview or you meet residents from that program.
I'm just going to echo some of this stuff. I know some of you guys heard my 10 musts as you're a student at Staten Island. So if you heard this, I'm sorry, but I'm going to repeat it to some of the other students here. But basically, one of the things that actually I like to stress, and I'm not sure if everyone will agree, but is definitely being teachable. That's one of the things I will say that I think that we look for, because everyone's learning. Even now as an attending, I'm still learning. So having that approach that it's okay that you don't know and admitting to it and being teachable is obviously important. And the other thing I recommend that I know that we do at Staten Island is finding a mentor, wherever that is, at a program, at your school. We offer like attendings who are mentors to a lot of the students. That's one way you'll get to learn about the program, because one, they're a reflection of that program, and two, they could tell you about it and they'll guide you through this process. And the other thing is connecting to one of the residents. So I know some of you, for instance, have talked to some of our residents and one-on-one had conversations, emails, and discussed like some of the things they do, outside activities. Obviously that's not an option right now, but in the future, and or if there is a Zoom session. So like Dr. Weisberg had said, there are going to be options where people will have like a Zoom session with the residents where you guys could get to speak to them without the attendings there and get to know them. So I would highly recommend that. But I think it's important to have a mentor, and I would reach out. I know some of you guys have contacted me about that, and seeing if there is somebody that you could relate to one-on-one, whether it's somebody who's interested in education there or ultrasound or anything like that that you could speak to and guide yourself through this process, especially when you have questions that are difficult to answer. But that's what I would recommend.
Have your programs thought of what you guys will be doing to be able to have the applicants interact with the residents? People have mentioned virtual game nights or virtual lunches or something like that. Have you guys figured out what you guys will be doing?
I think Dr. Weisberg and I had discussed like having a virtual lunch, dinner, trying to figure out the actual how we're going to go about it, but definitely like a Zoom session, also an information session with the residents. I think it's important to get to know the residents, because I think that's a big part of who you're going to be spending a lot of your time with if you decide to go to that program. But there are a lot of logistics you have to figure out, but I think a Zoom session with the residents is definitely something we've been talking about, and having like everyone have lunch together or something like that, especially for the pre-interview portion.
It's a work in progress for us too. We're going to do something like that as well. And then in addition, our residents are going to put together kind of a roster of all the residents, some of their interests, what brought them there, are they married, not married, blah, blah, blah. And then that's going to go out to people, and they're going to make themselves available if students want to reach out to them one-on-one. Like if you're a rock climber and you want to know what the climbing's like around here, or if you're married, like what's it like to have kids in Syracuse, or maybe worse, if you're single, what's it like to be single in Syracuse? And so exactly how that's going to happen, or we're going to send that to every medical student in the country, seems unlikely, but we'll find some way to get that out and our residents have offered to be available to talk one-on-one with whoever wants to talk to them.
I've spoken to no, you go
ahead. Okay, I was going to say our residents are extremely excited about this. They're also feeling a little bit sad that they're missing out on the interview dinners, because that's a really fun time for them to get together. And so we actually had a meeting yesterday with kind of a committee of a group of 20 residents, shockingly. And some of the things that we're going to put into play, we're going to start a webinar series to highlight some of our residents, to highlight some of our attendings, some of the things that our program offers. We're also going to do like either a virtual game night or a pre-interview dinner Zoom session as well. And then our goal is to try, and our residents really want to offer kind of we do families within our residency. So there's an attending with a third year, a second year, and an intern. And they find that really helpful. So they want to offer kind of like a mentorship type program to students who are especially interested in our program or who might be rotating with us. And then also the plan is to get a virtual rotation out there so we can include some more of the residents who aren't necessarily able to travel from afar to come get to know our program a little bit better. So we're pretty excited about that aspect of it, and hopefully we'll be able to offer you a little bit of insight into our program.
Yep, similar. We already have a virtual rotation up on VSAS. I think a lot of programs around New York are putting out a once-a-week rounds there that residents can join into. We're going to do one of those as well, but I think that from a medical student point of view, if you look at various program websites, you're going to see a lot of the options that are available. I've talked to a bunch of different program directors, and I think that in a cool way, you will have more access to emergency medicine interactions than any previous year ever had. So I know there's a downside, but there's also some good sides to this year. I've been trying to figure out with my residents what a game night would look like. They all want to do Cards Against Humanity, and I thought about how most of the games with Cards Against Humanity that I've played go, and thought maybe we could make our own version that doesn't quite go as deep and dark, but that is an argument I'm having. I was pushing them towards Jackbox, and they said no. So we are figuring that part out.
One thing that some of the council members have mentioned was allowing residents to take over our Instagram for the day. So for each program, they could take over the Instagram for a day and take pictures, videos, or whatever between the residents. And I figured this idea could go to also the other state chairs that are on this call. We could all do it and represent our states so that people can see what the residents are like with one another. We also wanted to know, one student mentioned, we do have students from the Midwest, the South, and so there are students with no obvious connection to the Northeast, and they would want to know how they can express an interest with a New York program without having any sort of connection.
So that's actually going to work out great. Everybody, we've already talked that all the program directors are fully aware of the changes that we need to make this year. Email has been an amazing tool already, and I think that there is a very big difference between going into the ARAS system and clicking every program in the United States to interview at, and actually writing a program director and saying, I am interested in coming to your area because of this, this, and this. So anybody who reaches out to a program director explains why that area is important, is all that we've ever wanted, right? It's all that we've ever wanted, is to understand why they're looking at our geography, our program, our whatever, to make them viable candidates, even though they've never left the great state of Oklahoma.
I think the same thing holds true for our program. You know, we're always interested. I mean, you said Midwestern. We're way more Midwestern because of our location than we are New York. I mean, New York is a big state, and we are 4 hours from New York City. I know I can get to the George Washington Bridge in 3 hours and 50 minutes because I've done it many times. You know, you want to know what attracts you to a certain area. What is it about it? You know, it's not a make or break for us, but we want to know that you'll be happy in the area that you're finding. What it is about this area that causes you to be interested in it. You know, if you're coming from Southern California, I just kind of am curious what made you want to come to Syracuse. It's just a general curiosity thing. You were thinking to yourselves, God, I hate seeing the sun in February, March. So I need to go to a place that gets no sun in February, March, and lots of snow. So Syracuse is it. So no, it's really a question that we want to know. What is it about the area that made you look at it? What is it about this? And, you know, sometimes it's just a cue in for a conversation. Sometimes there's some genuine insight. I have family here, I have family there. I wanted to know more about your area. I liked the cost of living and looked at, you know, whatever it is, there's all these different factors. So it just generally helps us to chat with you about it.
Yeah, and there's no wrong answer. You can definitely just say, I'm interested in living in New York. We get a ton of people who say, I just wanted to live in the city for a while. But it's nice to know the reason that you want to be there. And it's usually a great conversation starter. So I don't think it hurts you in any way. And that being said, I'm from the Midwest. I grew up there. I went to school there, and I slowly made my way out east. And I love it in New York now, and I don't know that I'll ever leave. But I think it's completely fine from anywhere that you're coming from. And, you know, I think all of our programs have people from all over the country, so I don't think that that's something that would go against you at all.
We also had a question because one student mentioned that they decided to apply into EM late into third year. So they were interested in a different specialty before. They have research in that area. They were very involved in that area. And now they don't know what to do because they don't know if people are going to think that they just aren't interested in EM when they apply. Do you guys have any recommendations for someone who decided later to to pursue EM?
I can start with that one, then I'll cede it to somebody else. I can take this in two ways. Number one is somebody who, when I was graduating from Einstein, I was in the internal medicine match because all I wanted to do was infectious disease. I did an NIH grant, did a bunch of research. Everything was ID, and then I did a rotation at Jacobi very late and kind of said, oh no, and had an existential crisis. And found that I was in love with thinking about infectious disease, but not in love with doing it, but in love with doing emergency medicine. So what I found, at least, and I could say in retrospect, is not often when you started something else and you wind up picking emergency medicine, we usually think you're pretty smart because you chose right. And so I think a lot of times we don't usually hold that against you. I mean, if everything, and we've seen this a lot of us have seen ortho, hey, I want to do EM. And if you have a legitimate rationale for it and you tell us why it is you're interested in it, I think we still realize you came to this with good reasons, good intentions. And I think that helps us a lot because I think many of us realize that as EM physicians, it meant that we liked a lot of things and it was hard for us to choose, and everything seemed really cool in some way, and that we chose to, hey, I'm going to do it all. And so, of course, you're going to be attracted to certain facets of other specialties because what we do comprises them all. So I don't think most of us, and I'll defer here, would hold that against you.
I certainly wouldn't. I was like Bill. I didn't enter the match, but I can't remember when I decided I was thinking about general surgery or emergency medicine, and decided if you just explain why, I think that's reasonable. And frankly, I would think if you didn't think about anything else, or I would be worried that you weren't aware of the parts of emergency medicine that aren't awesome. Like everybody's on this call because they like emergency medicine and want to do it. But I ask, when I'm doing interviews, I ask every single person, what don't you like about emergency medicine? And if they can't answer that, it means to me that they haven't really thought about what the rest of their life is going to be like. And being an ER doc can be really, really hard. And if you haven't thought about the parts that are hard and made yourself okay with that, then you can be in for, you've got a lifetime of having to put up with it. And it's not easy. You've been a doc for 10 or 12 years doing a specialty to decide, I should have done something else. So to me, actually, it means to me that you actually thought about a bunch of different things and came to a rational decision to be an ER doc. So maybe I would even think it would be supportive from my perspective.
Dr. Modi, do you want to go first and then I'll go last?
Sure. I agree with all of that. I think just tell us why. I don't, in anything that happens through your entire application, through your entire medical career, if you can just tell us why or give us a little bit of an explanation, we're totally human. We get it. And as somebody mentioned before, I think EM docs are the most close to normal that's out there. So we get it. Just let us know, give us a short explanation, and we love to hear it. It's a way for us to get to know a little bit more about you and to learn about just how your mind works and how you grow and change as a human. And it's allowed. None of us, or a lot of us, didn't know exactly what we wanted to do from the beginning. And if you did, that's wonderful. But if you didn't, that's okay too.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I would recommend addressing it in your personal statement. Just explain exactly what happened. So, I was interested in another field and I did a lot of work, and then I discovered emergency medicine and I realized that that's where I want to be. And as you heard many times before from Dr. Paolo and Dr. Pereira, in general, most emergency medicine program directors are not going to hold things like this against you. We're not out to get you. We're really not. We're looking to recruit you into our programs to become our residents. We want you to love emergency medicine. We want you to love our programs, and we want you to be successful. So as long as you're just, doing the right thing, and people are going to totally understand that.
So in the chat, there's something about overnight shifts and how that's difficult. One of the few residents who came to me who left in the first year came to me the first week they were doing emergency medicine as an intern, and they had worked their first overnight shift, and they came into my office and said, I can't do overnight shifts. And they said, I want out of emergency medicine the very first week that they were there. And I think that highlights one of the really important things for you guys. Away rotations, actual rotations, all that stuff is so that you learn enough about the field, as Paul was saying, so that you know the good parts and the bad parts, and you're able to go into this with eyes open. I love overnight shifts. Some of the coolest stuff comes in at nights. The people who work nights are even more crazy than the people who work days, and that's saying something. So there are really good parts about nights. The bad part is exactly what was in the little side chat, which is it screws up your days and makes it harder to sort of interact with other humans. So finding that balance is always the right thing. But I want you to know the parts that are good, the parts that are bad, and make a logical decision.
Yeah, my former chair, who was the former program director here, would always start off his speech was, if you want a career for the rest of your life after your friends are out of it, where you can still work nights, weekends, and holidays and do rectals, I've got one for you. So yeah, it's a great job, but there, like we talked about earlier, everything has flaws, and it's about the flaws you can live with.
A lot of people also brought up boards, especially for us rising M3s. Especially those of us in New York City, we've had our exams canceled or postponed. And a lot of us even have to start rotations without even having taken boards. And that's definitely going to affect our score. So students were wondering what you guys are going to be doing to amend the differences that COVID will have on step 1.
I can do that one. Boards are not the do-all and end-all. Great doctors don't always make great test takers. So honestly, it was something where I need somebody to be able to take a test and become an emergency physician. There's one test that's kind of important, the Get Certified as an Emergency Physician test. So I need them to be able to do that. I hope that your experience, in fact, you have better skills at taking tests as medical students than any of us who have been out for any length of time, because we stopped taking tests. So if you take away that number, we are absolutely still able to, in fact, almost better able to figure out who you are. You have the entire performance of medical school, your entire performance in life, and that is a better judge of who you are. Most programs did not have a hard cutoff to say, I need people at least this tall to come into this program in terms of numbers. So same answer that we've given through everything that says, are you going to hold anything against us? We're going to find a way to make it work. A classic example is we were always asked, can you understand COMLEX, or do I have to take the other board test? And it never made any difference. We were, of course, able to interpret numbers. And it was always in the setting of your entire application. So it's going to work out. It really will.
I think one of the questions that I saw when you sent them to us, Evelyn, was what if we were affected by COVID and you were sick, or you had a family member who was sick and that affected your score or your ability to take the test? And I think this goes back to something we've been talking about. If you feel comfortable in sharing why that happened, telling us the why is really helpful, because again, we're human and we can understand that you guys have been through a lot and you guys are kind of being flexible and going through all these changes, but just let us know so we're aware.
And some DO students were wondering, not being able to complete a visiting rotation at a hospital, sometimes that was what was able to help you get an interview or even be able to match at a program, and not having that anymore is difficult for many of us DO applicants. So how are osteopathic and allopathic students going to be viewed in this application cycle at your specific program?
I can speak for Upstate. I can't speak for all the other programs. But when it comes to Upstate, we always try to take the best person, regardless of the school of your origin. So it's always been for us about the individual, and not so much where you derive from. You could go to whatever school, tier 1 school, top school in the country, and be a terrible applicant, and you can go to whatever is the worst school in the country. And I think there is such a thing, but let's say you went to that and you're an outstanding applicant. It's about the individual and not about, like, a lot of, I think we've emphasized this, but we really emphasize the individual and the individual we're looking at. We really are very humanistic insofar as this specialty is concerned. So who you are, what you've achieved, your life story matters a heck of a lot more to us than the U.S. News World Report rankings of the NIH dollars for your school that you're deriving from.
So, I think that I understand why you're concerned about not being able to sort of showcase yourself as much. Remember, everyone's in the same boat this year, right? Every student is faced with that limitation that they can't really do, or most students can't really do away rotations. I actually have a slightly different opinion about COMLEX, and I recommend to osteopathic students that if you are applying to osteopathic programs only, then you only take COMLEX. If you're applying to allopathic programs, I do recommend that you take USMLE. I know it's unfair, and I know it's extra money and more studying, but I think it helps you kind of compete with the majority of the students who have a USMLE score.
I would echo that. We don't use that in our program. If you take for us, if you take the COMLEX, you do well in the COMLEX, we don't much care. But when I'm advising DO students that rotate with us, I will tell them the same thing that was just stated, that not everybody thinks the way we do, and to open as many doors for you as possible to program directors, it does make more sense to do that, because I can speak for us, but I know that there's a large body out there who does not feel the same way, and you will get more doors open for you with the USMLE score. Now, again, my program versus other programs, but what I'm trying to get you is the most doors open for you as humanly possible to give you the most opportunity.
I think that's the same for Maimonides. We try our best to compare the COMLEX, but it's very helpful if you have the USMLE. It just makes it much easier to kind of compare across the board. So if possible, we recommend that you try and take it. And the other thing that I would say is, I know it's tough. I'm a DO as well, and it's nice to have the ability to rotate out a program and really showcase yourself and prove that you should be there and you want to be there, and it doesn't matter whether you're an MD or a DO. And I would recommend that if you're really interested in a particular program, and if you're not able to get there to rotate because it's just out of your area, or you're not able to get there virtually, it doesn't hurt to send an email out to the program director and really let them know that you're interested in the program and why you're interested, because just a little bit more of an intro or a little bit more of a why goes a long way.
And so there was some follow-up on the chat about step 1 versus step 2. Which one? I think it does not matter. I would say in general, the answer should be whichever one you think you're going to do better on. If you think you're going to do well on either one, step 2, I think in general, emergency medicine programs value step 2 more than step 1, because it predicts how you're going to do on the emergency medicine boards, which, as Dr. Pereira said, is what we really care about. Now, this year, that's a little challenging because, as far as I understand, step 2 is not available until at least September. So if you're applying in this cycle, I don't know that you have the opportunity to take step 2 early enough. So it's just something to consider.
I was just going to say, Evelyn, being from a DO program, I graduated from Toro, so hello to all the Toro students. I actually took the USMLE, and you are going to have programs that will just accept the COMLEX, but it definitely opens up a lot more doors, like was mentioned, to take the USMLE. I saw that it helped me a lot more, so why not open more doors, So if you feel comfortable and you studied for one and you took a practice test and you saw you did well, then definitely go for it, because it's definitely going to help you and it will make the process less stressful.
There are a lot of students from out of state, as we mentioned, and one person asked, I've heard that residents in New York have to take over a lot of non-physician responsibilities due to the strong New York Nurses Union, like placing IVs and moving patients around the hospital. Do your residents have to do these type of tasks? And how do you support your residents in maximizing their professional development while limiting non-traditional resident responsibilities?
So I think that's a very important question to ask the residents at the programs that you're looking at, right? We spoke before about speaking to the residents to find out what's happening there. They're the ones who are going to be able to give you the full, honest answer to that question. And I think even within New York City, I think there's a lot of variation. I think there are some hospitals that are known for having not as strong ancillary support, and other hospitals which have much stronger. And it becomes a question of what's important to you, again, and what will make you happy in your training. This is something you definitely want to discuss with the residents in the programs you are applying to. I can speak for us. I believe the place I trained, ancillary support was almost non-existent. The program that I'm currently at Staten Island, where I'm the program director, is much, much, much stronger ancillary support. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of support for the residents in that regard. I would recommend speaking to the residents at the places you're applying to get a sense of what's happening there.
Yeah, I knew in my alma mater residency that I was going to do those things. And I went in with an eye that it meant a lot of extra work that I was going to do, and I was totally okay with that. So just be aware of that when you're talking, because as was just stated, lots of different programs, lots of different amounts of extra work that I guess as it was termed that you'll do. I'm in a different state. I'm in a different location now. I'm in upstate New York, and our ancillary services are actually really amazing. My residents are spoiled when it comes to my nurse's ability to do IVs and things like that. My residents are only ever utilized when it comes to an ultrasound guided IV or central line. So you're asking about New York City. Where my program is much the opposite now, but I can tell you that is variable within New York City. But if you're going with an open eye, you know what you're getting into. That's the most important thing. If you're going to a program and you realize you'd be miserable pushing stretchers and putting in IVs and drawing blood cultures, then you should know that going into it, know whether that program requires that of you or not.
There are also first years on this call, and they wanted to know how you guys will handle step one, becoming pass-fail, and how the criteria for assessing applications will be.
Same answer. Really, exams are not the most important thing out there. We're constantly, I think the most interesting thing this year is I've done some video interviewing before. It's sort of new to me because being in a room with someone and reading the body language is something that is part of my understanding in an interview. I'm going to say that much more important than the pass-fail, the exams, because you're going to do on the exams what you're going to do, and it's completely shifting the conversation, is going to be you guys need to figure out how to present yourself well in a virtual interview. This is something that no other class has had to do. Learning how to look at the camera, seem like you're interested, because even if your camera happens to be over to the left, it's going to screw up the person who is looking at you. So I'm saying of things you can change, I would say that is high on my priority for ways to present yourself. The exam is going to go pass-fail. Everybody's going to be in the same boat. And again, we're going to look at the rest of your application and get to know you, and it's all going to work out.
Yeah, so, it may actually obviate the question we spoke about earlier, which is, do osteopathic students have to take USMLE? If it goes pass-fail, that may no longer be an issue. We'll see. What I think is going to happen is that more value is going to be placed on step two, because so far that's still going to have a numerical score, and more value is going to be placed on the slow. As step two becomes pass-fail also, which probably was going to happen, then that may go away also. I would say, remember, the goal is to take the stress off of the students to try to not put so much burden on you about this one-day exam. So for you, it's a good thing. And as long as you do well on your rotations and you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to have a strong application.
We also have international students here. Some are non-US, others are US IMGs. And they were wondering how they could tailor their application to reflect an interest, because some of them only have step one or step two scores, and they want to make sure that they can even be considered for this year's math.
I feel like I don't want to hog the floor. Anybody else want to speak? Okay. So I'm sorry, I forgot the question. The question was for international grads if they don't have step two. I think everyone's going to be in the same boat of not having step two this year. It's just not available. And again, we're all understanding and we get that. And expressing your interest is the same as we mentioned earlier. I think saying in your personal statement about why you're interested in going to a specific area, I think will convey that message very, very well.
Agreed with that. Agreed. Having had international students in my program, it helps to know why you want to come to the program and what it is that's the interest about the area and what you provide. And the same thing, just like all the other boilerplate stuff that we've said, I think holds true here as well. Who you are, what it is that makes you unique, why you want to come, and what it is that you'll do when you're there.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We have about 5 minutes left, so I figured I could give you guys the opportunity to have some closing statements. So if you want, we could start with Dr. Modi.
Sure. Thank you guys for tuning in today and for inviting me. It's always nice to connect outside of just interview season, and it's hopefully we'll get to see more of you guys during interview season. If you guys have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat again, but please reach out. Please take a look at our website. Please take a look at our Instagram or Twitter, and reach out if you need anything, even if it's not just being interested in Maimonides, but anything else. I think we're all here to help you guys and want you to be successful, and you'll very much find that in the emergency medicine world, we all really care about each other, and we just want you guys to be taken care of and to end up where you're going to be happy. So good luck to all of you. Reach out anytime, and look forward to hearing from or meeting some of you in the future.
I'm just going to go in the order of the flyer. So next we have Upstate with Dr. Paolo.
Again, much to reiterate, thank you guys for paying attention to us. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for having us. A lot of New York is New York City. I'm born and raised there. I get it. If you want to explore things that are outside of New York City, if you wanted to get another idea of what it's like to be the only hospital for a giant swath of the community, to work in an underfunded, doctor-poor region, to take care of a bunch of people who need doctors, because goodness knows we need good people up here. We have a net loss of physicians in this area, so we are in need of physicians up here always. We have a giant heterogeneous community that needs good physicians. So please take a look at the upstate area if you're still interested in New York, but not quite interested in the city, or maybe not sure, you want some sort of hybrid. It's a fun place to work. It's a fun place to train. I've been up here 11 years, and I grew up in the city, and I actually love it up here. So it tells you, I came up here for my wife, and I wound up staying up here for the job. So it kind of tells you it's a fun place to work. It's a fun place to be. And we need good physicians, because we have a lot of societal ills up here that need good, strong people that want to come up and help us solve them. So thanks for paying attention to us.
Do you want me to add a couple more pitches for upstate New York? I would just also say it's always Syracuse is always a hard sell, especially compared to where all you guys are. But as Bill and ours former boss before Bill became the boss said to me, it's hard to get people to come here, but it's hard for them to leave when they do. So it is a different place. We do have a lot to offer. We are the only level 1 trauma center for 2 hours or 3 hours in each direction. We've got the only PEDS hospital for 2 or 3 hours in each direction. We've got fellowships in almost everything, and hopefully a sports medicine fellowship in the next year or so. So I think we have a lot to offer. If you talk to our residents, I think you'll find that their lives are pretty happy, that their interactions with the attendings are really good, and it's not a bad, despite the fact that the sun does not really come out for a couple months in February, in March, it has a lot to offer between May and October. So please keep us in mind when you're thinking about working in New York.
Yeah, thank you to Upstate for agreeing to be part of this. We, as an MSC, have a lot of connections to the New York City program. So when we reached out to you, it's because we wanted more programs outside of the tri-state area to be involved. So thank you guys again for answering our emails and being part of this. Next, we have Dr. Pereira.
I understand how difficult it is, what you guys are going through and thinking about. It was not that long for any of us. 2 things. Focus on what's going to make you happy, because if you come into a program happy, then it's all going to work out great. Also, don't come into the search for your program completely already decided on what and where you want. One of the things that I found when I interviewed and did all that stuff was what I wanted from a program. I defined as I went through the process. So keep an open mind. Try a few things that you wouldn't necessarily, think about, because you may find something you love. And honestly, just thanks for tuning in.
And we have Staten Island left, so Dr. Weisberg and Hassan.
First, Dr. Hassan.
Thanks, guys, for having us. I'm looking forward to hearing from a bunch of you guys. Remember, find somebody to speak to, a mentor. Don't ever hesitate to contact anybody from the program, including the clerkship directors. I'm always here if you guys have any questions, especially about the rotations. And if you want to know anything about Staten Island, I've been here since I was 5 years old, so I could guarantee you there are lots of things to do here. So definitely contact me regarding that, and make sure to contact the residents. That's the biggest thing. When I actually was a resident at Staten Island, and that is what, even though I was from here, the residents is actually what sold the place to me. So get in contact with them, or ask your clerkship director or somebody at the program a way to connect with them, and definitely get involved in those Zoom sessions when they're available.
Yeah, I really want to just echo what everyone said. A tremendous thank you to you. I know you're all going through a lot of things right now, and there's a lot on your mind. And I really appreciate the fact that you've taken out the time to come learn about emergency medicine and hear from some of the New York programs what's going on here. I really want to try to reassure you. I know this application process is stressful, and I know this year's application process adds an extra layer of complexity. I hope you got the sense today that we get it. We understand what you're going through. We are on your side. We want to support you through this. We want you to be successful and to be happy in emergency medicine. So try not to overstress the application process too much. Try to keep that perspective of, you know what, these program directors, they actually care about their students. Yeah, we actually do. We really do. And we want you to be happy. We want you to be successful in emergency medicine. We want people to be in our specialty. I think Dr. Pereira mentioned this earlier. I think the one thing you really want to focus on that's unique for this year is a virtual interview. None of us have done it before. And I would strongly recommend that you practice. Practice being on Zoom. Practice interviewing on Zoom. I'm sure you're on Zoom plenty, just like we are. But practice interviewing on Zoom. Have somebody interview you over Zoom, because it's a little different, right? When you're in the room with someone, you can make eye contact, you know where to look, you can express body language. It's very hard over Zoom. Like, I'm trying to make eye contact with all of you right now, and I don't know where to look because I don't know where you're looking. I don't know where it's different. So practice doing it. Beware of what's in your background. I think we can all agree Dr. Pereira has the coolest background today, right? Beware of what's in your background, and beware what's on your screen and in your camera, because all of that is going to portray you. The one advice I'm really giving students this year is as follows. I would never want to go to a residency program and trust my training to a place that I never saw. So if you have the opportunity, do a second look in your top 3 choices. A second look is typically done after interview day, where applicants come back to the hospital and spend a few hours in the emergency department just looking around and seeing what's happening, talking to the residents and observing what's going on. I have not yet heard anybody outlawing this practice this year. So as far as I'm concerned, you can still come to us and do a second look.
My DIO actually said it was expected. Like, I thought that my DIO was going to be upset about it, but he says, I expect this.
Excellent. So we all agree. That's great. I would highly recommend it, at least for your top choices, to go and spend some time in the place for real, in person, where you can see the place, see what the emergency department looks like, see the residents and speak to them, see what kind of patients are coming through the department. I think you'll get a very, very good sense of what's going on. Remember, we're on your side. We want you to be in emergency medicine, and we want you to be successful, and we wish you all the best during this season.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you to the students who came, and we'll try and work on putting together another panel later in the summer. A lot of us are in dedicated right now, so we have to take a break from that for now. But I know other states are also going to be putting together panels, so look out for those emails and keep joining these. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.